Hi everybody, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Linda.
And welcome to the Paranormal Pub Table, where we're going to talk about the paranormal at a pub table. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about one of the most integral elements of a paranormal investigation, and that is an EVP session, and how we at Virginia Paranormal Investigations go about conducting our EVP sessions. Now, as you all know, the results of your EVP session can give you some crucial evidence as to whether or not there is a paranormal entity there. Now, a lot of times when you don't pick up anything on the EVP session, it doesn't mean that there's nothing there, it just means that it wasn't communicating with you. But what do you think are some issues that we've had in the past with EVP sessions and producing good, clear, solid evidence?
One of the main issues, of course, is interference, other noises that may be going on in the house or in the building when you're trying to record. A lot of times it's not feasible for the customer or the client to be able to leave the house completely while we're trying to investigate. So a lot of times they're present, they're in another part of the house, they're speaking, they're laughing, they're talking, you know, they've got a lot of noise going on, and of course all of that shows up on the recording, so you have to kind of weed through it when you analyze it.
Right, right. And a lot of times when there is noise going on in the house or anything that could contaminate your EVP, there could be something going on right behind you and you wouldn't even know about it.
Right. So what we have done is we have compiled some guidelines that you can follow that will help you to get the most indisputable evidence that you possibly can.
Now, as Linda mentioned, a common problem with EVPs is the client. And it's not their fault, it's not a bad thing. Now, one thing you can do, obviously, is you can include the client in the EVP session. Now, this is a good idea if, say, the entity is more so attached to that person than the location.
Yes.
You know, for example, if it's attached to the location, it's most likely going to be there whether the client's there or not.
Right.
However, if it's particularly fond of this individual, then it may be more likely to make its presence known while that person is part of your EVP session.
Right.
And if this person is part of your EVP session, you got to make sure that they know your policies and procedures.
Right.
And what are some things that, you know, you think are good ideas just when you initiate this EVP session, you got your people sitting around the recorder.
Mm-hmm.
What are some do's and don'ts?
Well, the main thing I would say is probably to never whisper. You always want to make sure that the customer, if they're there with you, understands that anything that is a whisper is going to be hard to discern whether it's somebody that's sitting there or whether it's actually an EVP coming through. So that's probably the number one thing, is making sure that the customer understands that if they want to speak, they certainly can speak, but it needs to be done in sort of a normal tone of voice. No low speech, no whispering of any kind.
Absolutely. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that any person should be able to take this EVP session and your notes and be able to analyze it. And they should be able to tell what every noise is on this recording.
Right.
And they find this out through tagging the noises. When you're sitting around that recorder and you hear something, verbally tag it. Also, we're going to have somebody that's standing there with a notepad, and they're going to be jotting down every noise that they hear. In case they hear something you don't, or something you forget to vocally tag, you have the notes as a backup.
Right.
Now, another thing you want to keep in mind is outside contamination. Contamination that might come from outside of the room or outside of the house even, that you may not hear, you may not catch, but the recorder, as sensitive it is, may pick it up when you amplify the sound to hear the EVP sessions.
Yes, yeah. There's been a couple of occasions where we've been in a trailer or a house that was very close to either railroad tracks or a highway. Noise contamination can come off of that. You know, occasionally there's busy neighborhoods that you're in, so people are outside making noise, kids across the street yelling, that sort of thing. So those all have to be tagged. Anything that you hear, you know, and anything that that you might hear even before the recording starts needs to be noted.
Right, and if the person, the property custodian, or there are people in the location or about the location that aren't sitting in on the EVP session with you, someone needs to be monitoring them for a couple reasons. Most of the time it's inadvertently. They may cough, or they may laugh or talk or say something, and you don't hear it in that room, but when you amplify that recording, when you take it into the program and you're, you know, looking at the waves and such on it,
Right.
you may hear that voice then and think, where did that come from?
Yes.
So someone is going to want to be with these people, kind of monitoring them. And your watches are going to have to be synchronized, because the time on your notes need to line up with the time on everyone's watch, on everyone on the recorder, basically. So
Right, yeah.
you know, when whoever's doing the recording can say initiate recording at this time, okay, and then if you hear a noise at, you know, initiated at 12 o'clock, you hear a noise at 12:02, you can look at the notes. Oh, they got this noise written down at 12:02. That's what it
Right.
was. It was somebody talking down here or such.
Yes.
So someone's going to want to be monitoring those people, and there is the rare occasion where people might want to kind of screw with you. You know what I mean? Where they might
Yes.
want to make you think that there's something there. So if they're left unattended, they might be tapping on a wall or
Right,
you know,
absolutely.
listening at the door and answering your questions or something like that, just to
Yeah.
kind of screw with you. You know, we haven't
Yeah.
encountered that I can say, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it does happen.
Absolutely. Yes, because some of the people that you go to their house to investigate, they seem to just want attention. So a lot of times, you know, that is a possibility, that they could be out there trying to mess with you, trying to make it seem like something is occurring when it's not.
Right, absolutely. And another factor to consider is outside noises, cars going by, people walking down the street, someone with their radio too loud, neighbors, if it's in a you know, closer knit neighborhood. So another good idea is to have somebody outside, physically outside of the house, so that they can firsthand hear any noises that are emitting from outside the house, and they can also write them down, the time, and you know what the noise was or what they heard,
Right, right.
so that once again you don't hear that noise on the recorder and think, where did that come from? Because I didn't hear it in the room.
Yeah,
Well, you look at his notes and he's got, you know, there was a bird singing outside and that's what it was.
right.
Whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have your perimeter secure. You have someone outside of the house. If there's people inside the house, you have someone sitting with those people.
Mm-hmm.
And each of these individuals have a notepad. And then you're ready to go ahead and conduct your EVP session. And you remember not to whisper. You remember to tag any noises.
Yes. And also, when you start out the EVP session, everybody that's there in the EVP session should say their names. It should be said out loud, loud enough for the recorder to pick it up very easily. That way, whoever's going back to analyze it, it's easier for them to discern if this person speaks, whose voice it came from, and who was there in the room.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It gives them an idea of how everyone's voice sounds and
Right.
where they are sitting in the room.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you keep these steps in mind, this will, we believe, help you to get some of the clearest, most intangible. Is intangible the word for it? Or is it tangible?
Tangible,
Right.
indisputable.
Evidence from EVP sessions during these investigations.
So thank you for joining us for this latest session of the Paranormal Pub Table. If you have anything to add to this video, if you have any other ideas or anything that may make EVP sessions better for everybody, then please comment below, and we'll see you next time.